This is Nikola Jokic. He's a 3-time MVP who could very well be on his way to winning a 4th award this season, a former NBA champion who's brought the Nuggets their only title, and I guess he likes horses, which I honestly never thought was anything special as to know. But if I didn't mention this topic, like the bigger and more common media brands be showing my feed, well then what kind of journalism job would I be doing?
How do you feel watching them race?
I feel stressed.
Taking on the Brooklyn Nets, and Nuggets star Nikola Jokic decided to take a little detour on his day off to head to Yonkers Raceway to watch some horse racing.
But getting back to hoops, and as greatness we take for granted, we've gotten so used to his all-world ability that we're numb, that when we see these crazy stat lines, we just shrug it off like it's regular. And then, in the other corner we've got a newcomer, and a young man that goes by the name Harkless, a 6'3" shooting guard who's employed by the Jazz, who's played in less than 30 games in his entire NBA career, was a journeyman in college, playing 5 different seasons, repping 3 schools in 3 states, and when I tried looking up fun facts, thinking maybe he's related to a once NBA legend, Safari gave me this, which I admit is not as fun as horses in this case.
How do you tell somebody that you care about deeply, "I told you so"? Gently, with a rose?
Point simply wasn't supposed to be in this situation, but on a random Monday night in the chilly state of Utah, he not only was looking eye to eye with the best player, but he actually outplayed him and perhaps won the matchup. And despite all the odds in true David Goliath fashion, he held Nikola Jokic to one of his worst games of the season, becoming one of the best underdog stories of the year. So how exactly did he manage to pull the sucker off? And how in this special evening did he outmatch one of the greatest to ever play the game? So unless you're an extreme ball knowledge extraordinaire, the chances are you've never heard of Harkless ever, and for pretty good reason. I mean, an undrafted rookie averaging 3 points a contest on the worst team in the league is not going to fly in a house of highlights. But this year on a Jazz team that's severely undermanned, he's had a chance to get some playing time and make a real difference with this video grade audition tape to keep his spot. Now the exposure may be limited since he's mostly in the G League, but he's coming off a season averaging 26 points, where his speed and explosiveness have really jumped off the frame. And with a strong lower body to go along with a great wingspan, he's a really dangerous driver who shot 55% of shots coming inside the arc. But up until now, he hasn't had his time to really prove in the NBA due to concerns surrounding being undersized at the position. He's not quite the playmaker to be an NBA point guard, while he's also too small to be a wing in the modern game, especially given he isn't a great shooter from outside, which if you take a look at his career numbers shooting a 3-pointer, this isn't going to fly no matter how big you are. So he's had to find a niche to stay an asset in the league, but we've seen thus far he's had no issue adapting a new role, trying to re-tinker himself away from who he was in the minors. Because one thing that they can't measure is his heart on a spreadsheet, and as cliche as it sounds, well, being a straight dog is almost second nature for him. To make up for his weakness, he's had to channel physical gifts into becoming a machine on the defense side of the ball, which clearly with his tools, he can do some special things. He's constantly hounding guys full court 0 let up, and he's really good at generating steals at a high rate, and can even get crafty as he pulls a chair here on one of the best ISO scores, which cumulative this season has been too great to ignore, and as a result he finally earned his first career NBA star. Who betting against one of the best players on the planet?
I like to approach every game the same, no matter what contracts or any of that extra stuff is, because that's kind of new to me, I'm not going to lie. But the game is the same thing for me. The love for the game is the same thing for me. I go out there and play every game like it's my last. I think Allen Iverson said that, and it kind of stuck with me from a young age. Kobe Bryant, same thing. So just wherever I'm asked to do, just going out there doing my best capability, that's my thing.
A lot of times we talk about the greatness of Nikola Jokic without ever actually acknowledging what it is that makes him special. And in my opinion, this is the most concise way to put it. He can get to a spot whenever and capitalize wherever. It doesn't matter who he sees standing in his way. He's so big and so strong, he can back anyone down, and therefore get to any spot he wants the entire floor. Which then, when he gets to that specific spot he's hunting, his touch around the rim is just historic level stuff. Even a player like Rudy Gobert matched against him, who theoretically an all-time defender should do the trick, is essentially rendered useless if you can't body him up. There's just nobody on the planet who can stop this combination of lead skill and strength to go wherever he wants to go. So quite simply put, if you play him one-on-one, it's near impossible to try and guard him, and the Clippers early in the season tried a very obscure move, where they chose to let him isolate the whole game on an island, and put more of the focus on shutting all the others down. And outside the fact that Jokic went for 55, while going against one of the biggest, strongest post defenders out there, I'm sure it went great, because he was barely hitting the rim.
Clippers lead by 1. Jokic feels the contact, knocks down the bounds for Denver. Ultimately the difference. 3 by Jokic in order. Jokic in the corner, this time from distance, and fades and fires and fills it up. Basket. Now Jokic tries to retaliate. It's good. You were talking. Jokic selects for the mid-range, and it's one of those nights.
So obviously you can't let him bully his way to buckets. So teams have had to scheme and get creative with how they play him, and may have figured out a new approach to slow him down. And instead of going with size to trade body blows at Jokic, they instead go with faster, much smaller guys to counter, using speed to make him tired, and dictate the possession, try and beat him to the spot. And logically, he can't score if he never receives the ball, which is what the Thunder realized using Caruso in the playoffs. Despite giving almost 100 pounds in total size difference, his speed anticipation caused a lot of trouble for the Nuggets, so it may seem kind of weird, but certainly got it done. And another reason teams decide not to use their center is that this way you can keep the biggest guy around the basket. The Wolves shifted Towns onto Jokic in the playoffs with Gobert guarding Gordon, who was a non-shooter at the time. So that yes, we know Jokic will get to his destination, but that shot is way harder when you have a safety net. It's kind of like taking bait. When he thinks his standard back down and he's powering his way in the post, well, it's only until after, when he sees Gobert inside, that potentially can force him just alter the shot enough. And given that these teams beat the Nuggets back-to-back, the Jazz thought there must be something here that they could use.
You know, there have been some other teams in the league that have guarded Jokic with smalls. And it's about trying to wear him down, make catches tough. You know, if you know a good coverage for Jokic, please email me. But
just like how every major upset story starts, on one side a contender, one of the greatest players in the league, and a team missing 5 of their best members on the other. And based on the $11 ticket price for the matchup, it's fair to say that this wasn't supposed to be a good game. But given Elijah Harkless and his journey to be a starter, from not getting drafted to the constant search for a home, you best believe he wasn't going to go down without fighting. And off the rip, the Jazz immediately threw him in the deep end as he was assigned Jokic, and his IQ and speed was very noticeable from the start. The Nuggets started the game using Jokic as a passer by flashing to the line to run a high-low action, which essentially burned the Jazz on the first play of the game. But when they tried to run it again, this time Harkless saw it coming as he beat Nikola to the spot and prevented that from happening. And then taking a page out of the defending champs playbook, where they used Elijah's quickness in the Alex Caruso role, being asked to front Jokic despite a massive size advantage to filter all the action going towards his teammate behind. He wasn't backing down anytime he did catch it inside, but early in this game he wasn't allowing Jokic to get there, because he was picking up early and was speeding him up a bunch, just pestering the best he could in order to not give position. But there was another nice advantage of having Harkless match against him, since due to his guard nature, he could switch the pick and roll. He could switch onto Murray and hound his dribble all the way out, but as the Nuggets tried moving the ball around to get him going, as they run another screen, he could switch back to Jokic and front him inside again, showing his versatility on this end. Here he's matched on Murray, but as they force the initial switch, well then watch as soon as he drives, he takes 2 guys at the same time, stopping the driver and the roller, somehow forcing him to kick it out. But overall, this is mainly about how he stopped Jokic by not only pushing him and forcing higher pickups, but beating him to the spot where he had no choice but to swing it. And overall speed and physicality was getting to him, as the former MVP was boiling up the frustration. But Elijah showed the world that he was not going away.
What was the thought process on putting Elijah on Jokic, and how do you think he did tonight?
I think Elijah's our best defender.
So in the first half, his defense was the key to keeping it close, despite everyone already having written off the Jazz completely. But somehow in the second half, his defense was even better. They tried Jokic at point guard so he could instantly be the handler, but this was working against him as he was getting pressed full court. And again, as he tried posting, he would sandwich Jokic in there to lead his path directly into the help guy in the back end. But watch what happens after, because once he's done wrestling down with Jokic underneath, well, as Murray drives baseline, he additionally comes over to provide rim protection and prevent an easy dunk. Same sort of thing here after the Nuggets can't get it in. They're going to flow into a ball screen, which is completely fine with Harkless, having multiple times this game defending a bunch of guys at once. As he switches on to Murray and has glued this whole possession, unfortunately he bails him out by jumping on the pivot, but rest assured he took a mental note of his mistake. Because a couple plays later, as he first tangles Jokic to push him out to half court, somehow once again finding himself guarding the 2 best players, this time Harkless had the answers to the test, as he bodies up Murray and goes straight into his shoulder, does not fall for fakes like he did on the previous play, and stays balanced on the ground without falling for any pivots, which forces a key stop, and you best believe he's hype.
Really in the running right now, look at this. I mean, let it speak for itself, Bowler. Elijah Harkless. That's what he does. And look,
whether crushed by a 7-foot behemoth risking his body, or was defending the whole team whenever Jokic wasn't in there, which by the way I meant that from a literal point of view, because check out how many guys he ends up guarding in this clip. He almost takes the whole team and completely forces them to miss himself. Jokic and Jamal almost polar opposite players, yet they had the same struggle going against his pure menace, and that in itself is an already impressive feat. Not a lot of guys I know that can make this happen, but sadly in the end, the Tanking Gods knew they had a prophecy to fulfill, and thanks to a pretty questionable foul they called against him, and plus a bunch of other things that screamed intentionally losing, the Jazz nicely gave the Nuggets a free pass for the win. However, let's dig deeper than just the wins and loss column, because despite going 0 for 5 with 2 points in the game, the fact that he was able to have this impact speaks volumes.
I really enjoyed watching that group play. I enjoyed watching Elijah play. I thought his ferocity brought a lot to our group. I think it's representative of somebody who doesn't take the opportunity for granted.
So, there's an old saying that feels pretty appropriate for this occasion, because truly in this instance, it wasn't the type of dog in the fight, but boiled down to the fact that the fight in this dog was stronger, which is not a normal task by the way for those at home. I mean, Nikola's no chihuahua, this is a former MVP. But based on the way Elijah approached a certain matchup, it didn't matter who he was staring in the face, he was gonna stand his ground and give hell to the opponent. And hopefully this game earned him a spot in their rotation, and whether or not the Jazz end up keeping him on the roster, this was damn sure great tape for the other teams to see, that Elijah does belong among the best players on the planet.